The Oulton Park circuit in Cheshire welcomes the Ginetta Racing Championships for their annual visit to the Northwest, and we will kick off our bank holiday weekend of racing with the Ginetta Junior Championship drivers, who already are assembling on the grid ahead of their first race of the weekend. 3 races, as always, is the plan for the juniors, and if the first 6 rounds of the championship are anything to go by, we're in for plenty of entertainment. The weather conditions also are starting now to look a little bit more favourable. There was quite a bit of heavy, very heavy rain overnight and into the morning. The track, though, has dried out. The ambient temperature keeps on climbing. It is very, very muggy here, though, today. They're very humid. There is a constant threat that one of those grey clouds above us may well burst, but we're hoping that doesn't happen during the middle of our first Ginetta Junior racing action of the weekend. Andy McEwen here in the commentary box. Mike Simpson once again joins me from Ginetta for this race at least. And Mike, Ginetta Juniors this season, it's been a fascinating year really, because the racing, I would argue, has been perhaps the most competitive it's been for a number of years. And yet this man keeps on finding a way to the top step of the podium. That's
right. I've had a great start to the year. Really good grid, really healthy grid. We've got 25 cars this weekend. We'll grow to 30 by the end of the year. We've got some younger drivers coming of age in the next few months. So, you know, who can take it to Rocco? He's putting on a great campaign to start the year, but I think everybody's thirsty for a result, so I'm looking forward to this race.
Like I say, it's not like he's having it easy. He has won the majority of races this season, all but the first round of the championship, which went the way of his nearest championship rival, Alfie Slater. But it's the methodical, almost clinical way that Rocco goes about his racing that really has impressed me. He really has a racer's head on his shoulders, doesn't he?
He does. He's very mature, and great pedigree. Tom Coronel, his father, so he's learnt all the. From Tom's black book of information on what to do and what not to do, and he's putting on a good show. But he's talented. He's clearly going to go places in the future. But the full grid, it's very, very strong. The teams and the coaches, mechanics, all do a superb job. Not just making the kids quick, but bringing them into the world of motor racing, learning the etiquette on what's right, what's wrong, when you should go for a move, when you shouldn't. And this is very much kind of doing your dirty washing in public. It's the first year's racing for a lot of these drivers, and the show they put on for the crowds here is a great spectacle. And
a big crowd on hand today here at Oulton Park, an even bigger one we anticipate on Monday. It's always one of the best attended British GT events of the season. This and Janetta, of course, these days, full season part of the British GT package, and they're going to be very much enjoying all of the eyes on them. Now, the grid for this opening race of the weekend, we'll get on to how this was set later on, but it will bear a striking resemblance to the championship standings. Rocco Coronel and Alfie Slater share the front row. They're the top 2 in the championship. Joseph Smith and Fred Green together on row 2, a pair of elite motorsport drivers. Then Scott Lindblom and Colin Cronin on row 3. 4th row for Freddie Lloyd and Max Cuthbert. Ethan Lennon and Jarrett Clark complete the top 10. Then it's George Cranford, Naldo the Aussie, and Emilio Del Grosso alongside on row 6. Row 7 for Harry Bartle and Felipe Reich, with Ethan Carney and Raul Zanzaran on row number 8. 9th row for Noah Young and Reedy Lake. And the top 20 rounded out by Henry Cameron and Felix Livesey. As Mike quite rightly said, though, it's a big old grid this, 25 of them on it. Josh Watts and Joshua Henry are 21st and 22nd. Katrina E and Matthew Chihuahua on row 12. And Torrin Byrne at the back. Now, those 3 at the back of the grid, they are at the back because they brought about red flags in qualifying earlier on this morning. And Mike, you were just telling me that really was the story of qualifying. It's already quite a challenging qualifying format for the juniors. They only get 3 laps. Track limits often is the big talking point, but because of the red flags this morning, actually, it was just setting a time at all that proved to be a challenge.
It was. I mean, the testing so far this week has been in glorious sunshine. So to wake up this morning with a very damp track and a lot of pressure on the drivers, to get the laps, the lap time in 3 laps, and just some overambitious, out laps. And unfortunately, nobody actually registered a time lap, so we've had to default back to championship order for the grid. But everyone's in the positions. The guys who have been on it all year are at the front. So it's going to be a great battle, and equally just a good a spectacle for us as it would have been with the normal format.
Indeed, so championship order then setting the grid positions does mean that we've got all of the championship frontrunners at the front of the grid, and we're getting to that sort of point of the season now, about a third of the way through. 24 races we'll have this year. And so championship standings now really starting to come into play. Rocco Coronel has the lead in the championship, 47 points his advantage over Alfie Slater, with Joseph Smith then a further 37 back. Now those are quite big gaps. However, drop scores haven't yet been taken into account. That we'll worry about later on in the year. We'll break the calculators out through the second half of the season maybe to work out the drop scores. But of course, it doesn't take a genius to tell you, which is why I'm able to tell you, that Rocco Coronel will lose a lot more points through the drop score system because he's won almost every race essentially, so he will have to drop race wins worth of points, whereas the likes of Alfie Slater have had some slightly less stellar results, so that will tighten things up quite nicely as we move into the business end of the season. Right then, 20 minutes on the clock. First of 3 races this weekend for the Ginetta Junior Championship about to get underway. Rocco Coronel and Alfie Slater on the front row together. The red lights are on. And 20 minutes of Ginetta Junior racing bursts into life here at Oulton Park. Rocco Coronel with a good start by the looks of it from pole position. And he will hope to hold on to that first position, not only through the first corner, but for the next 20 minutes of racing. So far, so good. He will lead out of Old Hall and along the avenue for the first time. As usual, a couple of them bouncing wide over the exit curb. We're on board there with Scott Lindblom in the number 8 car, and he is still 5th as they descend through Dentons into Cascades. The first side-by-side battle here is for 3rd. On the outside there was Smith trying to hold on to 3rd place, but Fred Green's up the inside, and Mike will have the inside line at the end of the Lakeside Straight.
Yeah, it's a drag race through to Island Bend, and it's still side-by-side. Good safe driving. Now that is not a corner to go around 2 abreast, so I held my breath there, but we fight on, and Fred Green's firmly got into 3rd place from a 4th place start, so he's on the move already as Fred.
One of the R Racing cars was out wide there through the Shell hairpin. Oh, and there's drama further back. Around has gone the 83 car. Luckily, everybody else manages to miss Reevy late, but Reevy, who on more than one occasion this season has been in the wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately, at the back of the field and pointing the wrong way. I'm sure Reevy will be able to get that car back underway, but some way adrift of the back of the pack, I fear. The front of the pack heads down into the Hislop chicane for the first time, and we've had a lead change, so through has gone Slater. Now, that surprises me a little bit. Rocco Coronel looked pretty comfortable out in front, but through has gone Alfie Slater, and Alfie will know the significance, won't he, Mike, of trying to stop that winning streak that Rocco is on.
That's right. Do you sit behind him and push, or do you go for it? And in my driving days, I always love to be at the front and try and control it. So Alfie following the footsteps of his brother Freddie, but Rocco's been sensible there. He's seen what Alfie's got, looking at the car in front, where's his balance at, and he'll sit there for a lap and just see how it goes. But Fred Green in the elite car's there, so he's not got a teammate to back him up. But I think they'll try and work together, especially the front 3, and see if they can get away.
Yeah, worth pointing out, if you're new to Ginetta Juniors this year, Rocco Coronel and indeed Fred Lindblom running the Red Bull livery as Red Bull Junior backed drivers, but they are still part of the R Racing Brigade. So Alfie Slater, who leads, is a teammate of Rocco Coronel. Perhaps that's why Rocco didn't contest that too hard when Alfie Slater came knocking. Slater then leads the opening lap, Coronel 2nd, Green 3rd, Smith 4th, so every position inside the top 4 changed on the opening lap, and Scott Lindblom completes the top 5. With a big group of cars running nose to tail down the avenue. This, meanwhile, Mike, is what happened on the opening lap. Someone ends up on the grass to the right, and I fear they're about to rejoin the circuit. Yes, right there, that was Reevy Lake. But unfortunately, once Reevy was on the grass, there wasn't really a lot more to be done.
It's a much bigger hit than I originally thought, so he must have dropped it wide coming out of Ireland, and once you catch that grass, especially with the rainfall overnight, there is no stopping it before the bank corner. So now, thankfully, all the cars resumed there, but it was a big hit that was.
What a big slide there for the race leader Alfie Slater, who I was about to say had sort of pulled a car length or so over Rocco Coronel, but then carried just a little bit too much speed into the Shell hairpin. Doesn't cost him the lead, but it does bring this long line of cars right back onto his rear bumper. This group stretching all the way back to Max Cuthbert in 9th position. This then the fight for 10th, Ethan Lennon 32, and the 55 machine right in behind of Jarrett Clark. The leaders, though, are heading down into the Hislop chicane, where the race leader is actively defending, and I think Scott Lindblom in the background there was making a move for 4th.
Yes, Lindblom got past Smith there with a late lunge into Knickerbrook, but that was a great, clean, aggressive move, and he'll be looking to move on to the green car, or the elite car, and hopefully make it an R Racing top 3.
I don't really fancy being given a bump draft over Clay Hill, but sometimes you don't have much choice in the matter, do you? Scott Lindblom, having gone past Smith, being given some assistance up the hill towards Druids, defends into the double apex right-hander. It's not really a place you want to defend, though. It's one of the quicker corners on the track. You lose momentum on corner exit, and Scott again has to go over to the white line on driver's right into Lodge. So, having taken this 4th place, I think it's fair to say these two drivers are not working together, and look at the effect that's having. The leading 3 now starting to pull away.
Exactly. I mean, Ginetta Juniors is ruthless. You know, one moment of defence can lose you half a second to a second, and that's a big time delta to lose to the top 3. So I imagine they'll be head down and just try and cement that gap and secure it for a few, battle towards the end.
Oh, well, they're battling now. They were leaning on each other through Oulton corner. A bump draft on the grass there from the 75 of Cronin, but that was a very ambitious move from Smith. He levered aside Lindblom, but Scott's now got the inside line for Cascades corner. He holds on to the place, and now there's a danger that car 15 can get squeezed out wide. No, there's just about room in the end for him to get back into the queue, and the battle continues down the Lakeside Straight. But this is very, very feisty stuff from this now 2nd group of cars, and they're really waving goodbye, you would imagine, to any chance of contesting for podium places. Lindblom, though, must feel like that if he could just settle down and get Smith away from him for a moment, he might have the pace to get away. Otherwise, why fight so hard for the position?
He's working hard behind the wheel. You can see Lindblom with his Dayglow yellow gloves on, and he had so much oversteer going through Cascade, so he's really working that car hard. And naturally, he's going into the corner on a tighter line than he'd wished for, so the car's really rotating at apex. But he's got a nice little gap here, a little bit of breathing space into Knickerbrook. So they're going defensive now, is Smith. So focus forward and try and catch that lead trio.
Yeah, Joseph Smith was a bit ragged through the Britain chicane there, all 4 wheels off the ground briefly, so that lost him momentum over the hill and just gives Lindblom a moment to catch his breath and maybe get his head down. George Proudfoot Nalder there we caught a glimpse of, who is right in the middle of this battle, heading up the Clay Hill once again. This the 3rd lap of the race. Fastest lap, by the way, set by Ethan Carney, all the way down in 12th position. So there is pace in that group of cars. It's just this is not the easiest of places to make progress up through the order. We're seeing overtaking, Mike, but this is not a Silverstone where you've got these long straights, wide open spaces to slipstream past people. An overtake here has to be well thought out.
It's one of the most challenging tracks in the world. It's old school, it's undulating, it's narrow, cambers every which way, and it's a true driver's circuit. And they've been really respectful out there and driving to the absolute limit of grip. You can see the cars, pitching heavily into the corners, the rear end coming round, and so it's a great spectacle to watch.
Glimpse there of the leaders. Rocco Coronel in 2nd place now sets the fastest lap, and he and Slater about half a second quicker than Fred Green, interestingly. So they're starting to drop Fred now. Remember, the top 2 are teammates at R Racing. Fred Green on his own really is the elite motorsport driver in that lead group. We've seen Rocco do this with Alfie Slater in the past, haven't we? Worked together in the first half of the race, pull away, and then settle it between themselves a little bit later on. 4th place battle continues to rage on. Lindblom hasn't been able to shake off the attention of Joseph Smith, although Joseph, in fairness now, isn't really sort of lunging at every corner, so perhaps content to sit behind Lindblom, at least for now.
You have to. I mean, 2 cars go quicker than 1. Really deep into Ireland there, and they've got to work together. The slipstream effect is up to a second a lap in Ginetta Juniors, so nobody has the pace to go at it alone, and you've got to pick your battles. And they're all calming down now. They've seen the top 3 get away, and this is firmly a battle for 4th, unless they work together and just hope that the top 3 have a battle towards the end.
It's an interesting point because we've spent a lot of the first 6 races this season talking about the slipstream, because Donington, high speed, sweeping circuit, Silverstone, long straights, big importance on slipstreaming, but you don't necessarily think of Oulton Park as being a quick track, but you all know this from personal experience. It's actually a very high average speed round here, isn't it? You don't do a lot of really heavy braking, only really into the chicanes and Lodge corner, but even the chicanes have quite a nice flow to them.
The first sector up to the first chicane at Britain's is super fast. I mean, these cars will be into top gear, taking 6th gear around Ireland. That's over 100 miles an hour. You're on a Pirelli Cintrano road tyre and moving around. It is super fast. It's exhilarating to drive, and that's what makes it so iconic.
A side-by-side battle in the background there. George Proudfoot Nalder is making nice progress through the order. He's into 8th now, ahead of Max Cuthbert. And around the outside goes Ethan Lennon. There's no grip out there, though, Ethan. He ends up being shown the edge of the road. Also wide was Emilio Del Grosso behind. So a couple of drivers exploring track limits at Lodge. And I think that, unfortunately, car number 32 is going to start losing places as a result of that. He's on the outside line into Oulton corner. And, yeah, through on the inside line goes the 55 machine of Clark. Jarrett Clark, who started 10th, creeps back towards the top 10 now as they head down the avenue for the fifth time of asking. Still fighting out though on the inside now, of course, number 32 of Ethan Lennon, and keeps Emilio Del Grosso behind. Settles back into line, but when they're this close together on a track as challenging as this, Mike, you only have to put half a foot wrong, really, and several positions can go begging.
Yeah, we've got Felix Livesey in the MDD car. He's up 6th place. He's one of the biggest movers of the race, and the championship's not gone great for Felix, but he's showing his speed here coming through the pack, and thinking about a little move on the elite car of Del Grosso there, but thought the better of it, with a small lock up to the front right. But leaders coming hurtling into Britain's over that curb. I mean, that is a huge curb, and we manufacture these cars, and for me to watch this, it's heart in your mouth stuff. But it's a super strong car. We've manufactured this car since 2010, and it's tried and tested, and these drivers absolutely wring its neck, and it's built to do a job.
I read an interesting article, an interview with Lawrence Tomlinson actually earlier in the week, and still some changes being made to this Ginetta Junior car. We'll cover that in a moment though, shall we? Because Emilio Del Grosso is changing the line through the Hislop chicane, tangling slightly with Felix Livesey. I'm not sure who made the move on who there, but they've come out of it with Del Grosso ahead and Livesey now at the back of that group. That was all a little bit clumsy down into the Hislop chicane, but it's that kind of corner where it's easy to start tripping over other people. But yeah, still some adjustments being made to the Ginetta Junior car to continue this sort of slight modernisation that's been made of the G40. We're at half race distance, and this is when Rocco Coronel decides he wants the lead, and this really is the Rocco Coronel script being followed to the letter, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, Green's on a better lap this lap, so Rocco will see that in his mirrors. Fred's putting in some good sectors, and now's the time for Rocco to lead. And Alfie, I think, will sit there for a little bit. You will not want to bring that elite car into play. Still a lot of racing to do in this race yet.
Yeah, so the gap came down, yes, by about, about 0.3 of a second quicker was the third place man. That was Reevy Lake's car, by the way, in the pit lane. Reevy brought that car in at the end of the previous lap. The front bodywork was loose after the hit up at the Shell hairpin earlier on, so that's a shame. May well get back out into the race, but of course now a full lap and a bit down from the rest of the pack. Leaders at Island Bend, and well, looks to me like Alfie Slater wants the lead back. He took a tight line into Ireland, drifted right to the edge of the road, and Rocco Coronel, having hit the front, is not going to have an easy time of this. But again, we've seen Rocco do this time and again already this season. Once that third car comes into play, he's very good at sort of backing the middle car up into the third place car, and that takes the pressure off him as the race leader.
It's his years of karting, and these drivers start, you can race from the age of 5, so they're just brought up in that fighting situation, and yeah, it's about picking your moments and planning your race. They're driving this car subconsciously. They can lap, they can do the gear changes, do the blips, do everything that as mortals dream of doing, and they'll be orchestrating it ahead of where they need to be in the next few laps, where they're quick, where they feel vulnerable, and just trying to plan out the race.
Ooh, Harry Bartle given a helping hand there, I think, by Emilio Del Grosso. This is where Del Grosso tangled with Felix Livesey a lap ago. Felix is back alongside now, but once again ends up on the wrong side of the road, really. So Raul Zanzaran squeezes up the inside, and Zanzaran, the Spaniard in the number 3 car, may or may not complete that move, actually. Didn't have a slipstream up the hill, and so ended up having to settle back behind the 31 car. But this is a spirited battle going on further down the order.
It is, they're trying to stay on terms with Carney, but they're enjoying their battle, and it's great to see Bartle getting stuck in. He's new to Ginetta's a good karting background, and showing his experience there with some stellar defence driving.
So we've got 7.5 minutes to go. We're at 2/3 race distance, give or take. These are the race leaders. You can see how Fred Green has closed in with the fastest lap of the race. So in fairness, it's not just that Coronel and Slater are holding each other up, but Green is going quicker now than anyone's been so far this race. Took another 3/10 out of the leader that time, as there at the inside went Ethan Carney, I believe that was, to steal 10th place back away from Cuthbert, I reckon. Leaders together, and another challenge here from the second place man, Alfie Slater. Gets the side draft there from Rocco Coronel's car. That drags Rocco's Red Bull liveried machine back towards him, and they're level into the quick left-hander at Island Bend, one of the fastest left-handers in British motorsport, but that did not put Alfie Slater off. That was a well-judged move.
That was a high-speed pass, and great courage. And if you get on the outside at Ireland, it's so slippery. And as this weekend's racing continues, all the marbles and debris will build there, and there'll be no grip there. So Rocco knew that. It's his first time racing at Oulton, but he's done his prep, and he knew the best thing was to tuck back in and live to fight another day.
So, interesting race this then. It was Slater who hit the front on the opening lap. Coronel got him back at half race distance, but since then, it looks like Alfie Slater's had an answer for Rocco Coronel. And now with the arrival of Fred Green in third position, this could get very, very interesting indeed. Through the right-left they go at Hislops, and Slater for now hanging on to the advantage with 6 minutes of this first race of the weekend to go. This, Mike, was the move.
Side by side, there was rubbing mirrors, just give each other a little bit of a gap there, avoiding the side draft, and a nice clean pass there, and Rocco able to tuck in so he could defend either side from the attack of Fred Green.
Now, Rocco Coronel won't be happy stuck in second place. You can see from the body language of car 23 that he wants the lead back. Where is the best place to do it? Well, we've seen a few moves up at Island Bend, but traditionally this corner, Lodge, has always been the place to put the attack on. Trouble is that Alfie Slater knows that, covers the inside line. Coronel daren't go wide because Green is behind him, and it's Fred Green as the third man in the group with no pressure behind, who is free to be a bit more inventive with racing lines and try to carry momentum where the other two drivers perhaps can't. They head towards Oulton Corner again, and here comes Coronel to the inside into the quick right-hander, and Green goes with him. Wow, so 2 places lost in one corner for Alfie Slater. I didn't see that coming. I had a feeling Coronel would try and come through, but Fred Green on his toes read the situation and benefited from it.
Superb opportunistic move, but I think Fred had been in his mirrors, and what people aren't seeing is Lindblom was over a second a lap quicker than that previous lap. So these three are fighting. There's just under 5 minutes to go, and if they're not careful, this will be a 6-car battle for the win. And
Lindblom's not coming by himself. He's bringing friends with him. That's about a 6 or 7 car group that is closing at a second a lap on these three who continue to battle through Ireland. It is Rocco Coronel, the race leader. Fred Green up into second place, and Alfie Slater thinking, how on earth am I third? I was in the lead half a lap ago, and all of a sudden has not 1 but 2 overtakes to execute in order to get back on the top step of the podium, and time running out as well. We're on the 8th lap of the race. They hammer the curbs through the Britain chicane, and all about getting a good exit over the hill to maybe try a challenge into the Hislop chicane. This is the next trio, Mike, then, so Lindblom, Smith and Cronin. They'll be there by the end of the lap, won't they?
Well, we've got Watts who's gone off. I think that's coming out of Ireland and just dropped it with some left rear suspension problems by the look of it. It looks like it's towing out quite a bit. So some side-by-side contact there.
Well, but he sort of lost it before the contact. I don't know whether he caught the curb on the inside. The car snapped sideways very suddenly and then sort of clattered into the car to his side. This is on board with him, Mike. What do you see? Ooh, got on the curb, did he?
Yeah, it didn't know. It looked like maybe some problem with the suspension there going in. It just got all crossed up and a bit out of control. So possibly an issue there on the left rear.
Yeah, hard to tell whether that suspension broke before or after the contact. But either way, he'll have to pull that car into the pit lane, I think. Right then, through Lodge Corner comes the leading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 cars, I think, in a line. And it still is Rocco Coronel at the front of the pack. They've got 2 laps to go here. And the 4th place man, Scott Lindblom, continues to be the fastest man on track. In fact, now he's got the slipstream. He has set the fastest lap of the race. So Scott Lindblom is there and brings with him Joseph Smith in 5th, 6th position Colin Cronin, 7th place George Proudfoot Nalder. They're all in a line as they head towards Cascades for the penultimate time. Bit of bodywork flies, I think, from the back of the race leader's car there. But Coronel, we know he can soak up the pressure. He's going to be put to the test again right now.
This is why we love Ginetta Juniors, and you think it's calming down, it's a race to the end, but it never fails to impress everybody, and it is so close, and it just makes amazing racing drivers. These guys have to have and girls eyes forwards, backwards in the side mirrors, and Coronel backing it in there on the tight line, and there's so much adrenaline going on in these cockpits. I can't explain to you how it feels, and any one of them can get the win. So I'm buckling myself in for the last few laps here.
Yes, place your bets now, everyone, because this could get very lively. Look, that's like a jump in a rally stage now, the Britain chicane, the way that they're abusing that inside curve. But if one driver's willing to do it and there is time in it, then everyone else has to follow suit. So they're going to get more and more aggressive, I think, through that chicane until maybe someone comes out of it on the wrong side. Through the Hislop chicane, where they do steer a little bit further clear of the curbs, and they continue to run in a line. Rocco Coronel soaking up the pressure. His mirrors filled with the number 51 Elite Motorsport car of Fred Green, and Rocco knows that if Fred wants to make a move, he is more than close enough to do so. The question is, where will that move come with just over a lap to go?
Look at that run up the hill by Lindblom. You can't see much. You know, you're looking at the sky. You know Druids is coming. There's 3 cars taking your line away from you, and you're really driving on instincts there. Green was wide coming out of Druids, so the tyres will be getting hot at this stage of the race, and the fuel load's getting light. Got a late lunge there from Alfie Slater. What a great move. Fred's going to hang it round the outside, and respect each other, guys. That was hard racing.
Here comes Lindblom as well. He's got the run on the pair of them. They've handed it on a platter. Surely it's Coronel. Look at Lindblom. He's waving furiously at the driver ahead, Alfie Slater, to say, don't defend because Coronel's getting away. But as they start the final lap, it's nearly 9/10 of a second the advantage now, by far the biggest lead that anyone's had all race. And it's now down to this quintet of drivers to try and catch him. Lindblom then, interestingly, well, I thought was willing to work with Slater, now goes for a little look at the inside. Again, bits of bodywork go flying at the bottom of the hill, but it's an R Racing 1, 2, 3. Is Lindblom prepared to push Slater? He's waving at Slater, who isn't seeing him. He continues to defend, and this surely is now Coronel's race to lose.
I think so, and you know, it's the last lap. I wouldn't be waving at anybody. It'll be a fight for second, really. And you know, Rocco's got a nice second cushion. He can pick his apexes, and you know, these 4 need to squabble between themselves.
Well, this is the 7th round of the championship. If Rocco Coronel is still ahead in another 60 seconds or so time, it will be his 6th win in a row and his 6th win from 7 races. An extraordinary start to the season for Rocco Coronel. The question, I think, now is who will join him on the podium and in which order. At the moment, it's Alfie Slater and Scott Lindblom, his R-Racing teammates, who would do so, but Fred Green won't be happy, having run in the podium places all race, to be down in 4th place now as they arrive at the Hislop chicane for the final time. Car 27 then tips in ahead of car 8. Will it still be that order when we get round to the timing line? There is realistically one more obvious overtaking opportunity left. That's at Lodge Corner, and to overtake there, Mike, it requires a good run through Druids.
It does, yeah. I mean, Lindblom's gone defensive there. It looks like Slater's taken control of second, so Green's on the hunt for third, and we've got, you know, Proudfoot Nelder in the MDD car. He's joined this battle as well, so a great run from him up 4 places, showing great speed at the end.
He's driven really well, made some good move, picked them off one by one. There might still be another place or two to be had at the final corner. The top 2, I think, are settled. It's side by side for third. Fred Green right round the outside of Scott Lindblom. That's a very brave move to make. He's just about left the room. He's on the grass. They're side by side to the line. It'll be a photo finish for third. It is Rocco Coronel who wins. Alfie Slater second, and just, I think, Scott Lindblom third. Yes, by 46 thousandths of a second, Scott Lindblom hangs on to third position. What a battle that was. We have Lindblom, Green and Smith covered by less than a 10.5 for third place at the flag. That was Ginetta Junior Racing at its absolute best. And once again, it is Rocco Coronel, the championship leader, who just seems to plot his path to the front. Even when he lost the lead in the second half of the race, he just never really looked like he was out of control of that race. And this was the moment that he won the race. It was the moment that Alfie Slater finished second. But Mike, it was also the moment that we had almost a dead heat for third.
Now that was close. I mean, what a formula this is. It's, you know, multiple teams run across different cars, drivers of different nationalities, and, you know, hundredths of a second apart. You know, this is British motor racing at its very best.
Fantastic stuff. The Ginetta Junior Championship, well, we might keep having the same winner, but I don't think anyone's complaining about the quality of racing, are they? And it really, because of how competitive it's been, it makes the job that Rocco Coronel's doing all the more impressive. He also, of course, wins the rookie class in that race, which means that Alfie Slater wins the junior class, as it's officially called, but basically the non-rookie category. But he won't be all that thrilled about that, I don't think. He'll be more concerned with the fact he was second place and a second and a half behind Rocco Coronel, who claims his 6th victory of the season and his 6th victory in a row. Once he started winning back at Donington Park in race 2, he hasn't stopped since. It's an R Racing 1, 2, 3 with his teammates Alfie Slater and Scott Lindblom joining him on the podium. Fred Green, Joseph Smith and Colin Cronin then make up a trio of elite motorsport drivers who were on the outside looking in as far as the podium battle. Brilliant drive from George Proudfoot Nalder there from 11th on the grid to finish second for MDD, with Freddie Lloyd, Ethan Carney and Max Cuthbert in 10th position. Some others further back, of course, who had dramas after what was a fascinating race. So let's take a look back, shall we, at some of the highlights of our opening race of the weekend for the Ginetta Junior Championship here at Oulton Park. Rocco Coronel started from pole position in race 1 here at Oulton Park after no qualifying times were set this morning, and the grid was based upon championship standings. That meant that his nearest championship rival, Alfie Slater, started right alongside and would make an early bid for the race lead, keen to stop Rocco Coronel's winning streak as soon as he could. There was drama though for Reeve Lake on the opening lap, who ran wide at Island Bend, clattered back onto the circuit and ended up pointing the wrong way. Eventually, Reeve would retire to the pit lane with bodywork damage. There was an almighty battle going on for 4th position. Scott Lindblom had briefly got himself up ahead of the 15 car of Joseph Smith. Joseph got him back briefly at Old Hall Corner, lost at the head of the field, bang on mid-race distance. Rocco Coronel decided that was the time to move back ahead of his teammate Alfie Slater. Slater, though, wasn't following the same script as his championship leading teammate and very quickly got the lead back at Island Bend, and this then, with the battling that was going on amongst the leading 3, started to allow the next group of cars to close in. Coronel hit the front again at Old Hall Corner, bringing this time with him the Fred Green Elite Motorsport car. Josh Watts had an unfortunate moment in the Shell hairpin that led to broken rear suspension and ultimately retirement. The lead battle got more and more intense by the lap. Scott Lindblom almost saw a route through into 2nd position, but Alfie Slater was able to close the door in the face of his teammate, who desperately wanted to work with Slater on the last lap to try and catch the race leader. That, though, would not happen. Coronel managed to hang on to the win. Slater 2nd, whilst it was almost a dead heat for 3rd. Scott Lindblom just about managing to fend off Fred Green for that 3rd position, making it another R Racing 1-2-3, headed by the points leader, Rocco Coronel.